So how should we receive the slave trade? We need to acknowledge that.
I certainly acknowledge it, but try and find out more. I mean, that human beings can do such a thing, and this wasn't carried out by a bunch of gangsters. It was supported by the churches, the bishops. The people of the establishment were supporting it. People like Wilberforce and Clarkson, who fought hard against it, were seen as outsiders. So, you see, it was an enormous revolutionary and social function in that to take on an institution like slavery, which was bringing huge wealth to this country, was something. It ought to be known also, of course, that the African slaves themselves were up, any time they could burn down a plantation or kill off some of the overseers, they would. So it was all run on fear and greed. They were the twin axes on which that slavery ran in that period. Fear and greed.
So how do you think the education authorities ought to deal with it? What should they be teaching our children?
Teaching how it happened, why it happened, how it stopped. It wasn't just the morality which we were forced, many of his supporters went for, but insurance companies were now worried that there would be a backlash from the African slaves themselves, who might rise up and take over a ship, kill a captain, and so on. It did happen. So when they realised beet sugar was coming on the market, there were other commodities that they could sell which didn't need such massive insurance costs, that it began to peter out. In fact, I think Liverpool was still, at the time of 07, Liverpool had about 1,800 voyages. Bristol had 500, so you could see how Bristol went into decline earlier than Liverpool. But it's important, this, because it was also to do this, what they demeaned a whole continent of people on the basis of their colour, that they weren't human beings because of the skin colour. They demeaned, and so it was, their legacy is racism. So and we're suffering from that now. Black people are suffering from the very legacy of slavery of 200 years ago, because the establishment had to justify what they were doing, so treating them and branding them like cattle, worse than cattle. They were human beings, were doing this to their own fellow human beings.